Hey guys, today we're at the Contest Prep Center with Sammy Catlin. She is the head posing coach for figure and women's physique for Team Elite Physique. And today we are going to show you all about figure and women's physique posing. So with women's physique and with figure posing, it starts off with quarter turns. There's actually no difference between the women's physique and figure posing in the quarter turns. The only difference is women's physique will also have different mandatory poses, which we'll go into at the end of this video. So any tips for figure posing in the quarter turns or women's physique posing in the quarter turns?
Quarter turns, like Adam said, are pretty basic for both figure and physique. When we get down to closer to showtime and one-on-one posing, we'll break it down more person to person and kind of do little tweaks on what is best for your physique.
So let's go ahead and show you exactly how it works with the judging. So you'll start off just like this. Now the judges will not say to you, face head on, all right? You walk out and you're already in your pose. Anytime you're on stage, you're shining, you're smiling, you're doing all your stage presentation. You do not need to be told to get into your pose here.
So in your front pose, we want to see that X shape in both figure and physique. Figure, obviously, the biggest difference here is you have heels. Dig into the balls of your feet, bring out quad separation, tilting your hips back, keeping your abs tight, wide lat spread.
What are some of the common mistakes you see when you're posing clients one-on-ones? What are the common things that you see them starting doing or at shows?
I think one of the most common is standing too upright, not tilting the hips back.
Probably can't tell so well, but you can see in the difference when you're doing the correct version of what you should be doing. So now go to the correct version. And you see she's quite a bit more angled. It's not a lot. It's kind of like we just cheat it just a little bit. So the shoulders are farther ahead forward than the hips, which visually makes everything look bigger that's farther forward. So now we're gonna go into our quarter turns. So what kind of advice do you have for them in the quarter turns?
The hardest thing to see is robotic movements on stage. So you still get to have a little bit of personality. We're still showcasing your physique. So add a little bit of your personal touch to it.
So figure isn't super rigid. You will see sexy figure competitors, sexy women's physique competitors, and you can see that in their transitions. You don't need to just be like blocky and straight. It's still a beauty flow division. That's part of the criteria is beauty flow. So your hair, your suit, makeup, nails, all that stuff still matters. You know, even though it's not bikini, people are like, oh, I'm not gonna do that because I'm not girly. Well, women's physique, figure, you can be more rigid, but also you're gonna see all sorts of different personalities in there, and you should showcase your personality. One of the important things that you guys probably can't see here is her foot position. Her foot position is just ever so slightly this way. Okay, I don't know if you can, it's ever so slightly this way, and that's enabling her to twist more. Now, right now Sam's full on 100% in her off season, right in the middle of it. But when she's fully leaned out, she's only a few percent above where she should be. This oblique line will be all the way in, and her turning her shoulders over more because her legs or her feet are just slightly this way is going to create even more of a shelf of that oblique line, more of a shadow. All right, Sam, so what are some of the key tips and some of the common mistakes that people make in this quarter turn?
I don't want to hide your glute or your hamstring behind your hand. Want to be displaying your body. Keeping your glute activated so it looks round and full the entire time. Being able to control your breathing while you're in this turn so that you're not blown out in front of the judges. In our back pose, working from the bottom up, you want to see a good hamstring activation, roundness in the glutes with a slight bend, again tilting back into your hips, big arch in your lower back, and keeping those lats wide and open.
So first we'll go into the first mistake, which is pinching your shoulders too much, okay? So she's pinching here, and as you can see, her traps are looking really good, of course, but not the width that she should have. So show the correct version now, and look at how much better that looks. The rear delts look great, she's fully wide, her waist looks smaller because of her width. Now go ahead and go into rolling your shoulders too far forward, and now you can't see her rear delts the way that she needs to. She looks straight up top. It doesn't look like an appealing look for women's physique or figure. Go ahead and go back to regular again. There we go. Now there's more shape up top, great V-taper. You're seeing the rear delt, that's the most important thing. And now let's go ahead and go into the hamstring. So let's go into the correct form. You see the adductor, seeing the adductor, the glute tie-in, the quad sweep here. We have everything going where we need to go. Let's go ahead and go into the incorrect way too. Okay, she's standing too upright. You're not seeing as much quad sweep anymore. The adductor is not separating. the glute tie-in isn't showing the way it should. Go ahead and show it again correctly. And there we go. There's a huge difference. So a huge difference in between these two physiques. You know, the girl posing like this would beat the girl who just posed the other way. One thing we haven't touched on is when you're in those quarter turns, you never look at the judges, you always look in the direction that you're facing, okay? So when you're in the quarter turn, you will always face this way. Don't get confused because we're talking to you, that we're not doing that. So let's go ahead and go into the last quarter turn, which there's really not going to be many tips on because it is the same as the other quarter turn, but you can see the transition and how she does it. Quarter turn to the right. And then they'll finish off quarter turn to the right, or they'll say face front, either one. And there we go. So that was the quarter turns for both figure and women's physique. Now we're gonna go into women's physique mandatory poses, but before you figure girls leave, make sure you get her information. If you guys wanna do one-on-one sessions, Sam does them all the time. We have a really good video set up here where she could do them great through video. Get her info and hit her up. She does all of our figure and women's physique posing for Team Elite Physique. Now, let's jump into those women's physique mandatory poses.
The best ones. In women's physique, we have 5 main mandatory poses. I'm going to go through my 5 and explain each one. The first pose is your front double bicep. Working from the ground up, just like we did through our quarter turn poses. In this one, I have my calf spiked, my hips back to bring out the detail in my hip flexors and quads, stomach tight, chest rotated up, elbows pointed just slightly forward, and open feminine hands. My next mandatory is the best side chest. Here you can see that I've squat down with the weight in my back leg, bringing out detail more here through my quadricep and glute. Stomach tight and back arched will create a really nice S shape through your upper body. Then placing one hand on top of the other, bearing your weight down to activate your pecs, tilting sideways towards the judges. Back double bicep, spiking one calf, bearing your weight down evenly between your 2 feet to activate the hamstrings and glutes with your pelvis tilted back, big arch in your lower back, pulling up to activate your lats, bringing your biceps towards each other. Next is our best side tricep. Much like in your best side chest, it's bearing your weight down on your back heel, hyperextending your front leg, rotating your toe outward, big arch in your lower back, creating the S curve, grabbing your fingers from behind to pull the tricep down and activate your shoulder as well. The last of our mandatory poses are abs and thighs. You'll see it again that I'm hyperextending my right leg to bring out the definition in my hip flexors and quadriceps. Place one hand in a fist on the side of my head, the other on my opposing hip, and activate my abdominals by squeezing down. All right, those are our 5 basic mandatory poses.